Hello everyone, my name is Dr. David Wank and welcome to Webinar Wednesday. Tonight's topic is going to be SSL for dental and medical websites. Do I need to be secure? So for those of you who don't know me, I think many of you know me already. My name is Dr. David Wank. I'm a general dentist in New York City, and I am the president of Short Hills Design, which is a web development, SEO, and internet marketing company for dentists and physicians. My contact information is here. You can hit me up at email or via email or on my website, or just give us a call. Upcoming webinars that we have that I'm excited about are on September 13th, we're going to talk about the Americans with Disabilities Act. That's a big one. And what are the updates and what are the recommendations? And October 23rd, Webinar Wednesday for October, we're going to talk about website speed and what we can do to check your page speed and to make sure that your page speed is where you need to be. So tonight, we're probably going to be maybe 30, 35 minutes. We're probably not going to go the full 45 minutes tonight. So we're going to do our introduction. We're going to talk about where SSL fits in the marketing workflow. We're going to talk about what it is, the effect that SSL has on SEO or not, what's going on with SSL certificates. There are many of them. They can be confusing. And what are my current recommendations for what you should do. Introduction. As always, the technical level for this presentation is none. Nothing I'm going to say here today is difficult to understand. If anything is difficult, it's because you just don't know the terminology. Anything today that we did at the office, certainly those decisions that you and I made today about what's safeable and what isn't are certainly much more difficult decisions and technical issues than what we're going to talk about tonight. But if tonight does sound intimidating, just ask if you have any questions. Stop me, raise your hand. There's a raise your hand button. You can certainly use that. Now, obviously, if we are in the middle of something and I can't stop, I won't, but I will certainly let you know, and we will take questions at the end if it's not appropriate to get to that question right where we're talking. Again, taking notes, don't write anything down. I mean, you certainly can. I'm happy to email you a copy of the notes of the slides if you'd like them after the presentation. All right, so let's talk about the Web Design Workbook for Dentists for a minute. Now, I wrote this book as a non-technical guide for dentists and dental team members. It's not a do-it-yourself about how to build a website. It is a guidebook. It's a guide from 10,000 feet, what you have to know. And it is, it's kind of like a diamond. You need to know about the clarity and the color, but you don't really need to know what kind of airplane or box they put it in when they flew the diamond over, or what kind of instrument or tool they use to mine the diamond. The workflow is pretty straightforward. Phase one is setting up your website and developing a website to Google standards. And that's actually where the SSL certificates come in. Step two is search engine optimization, social media, anything you do to drive traffic. So phase one, it's like building your website is building your office. Phase two, driving traffic to your website, same as getting people into your office, getting appointments scheduled. Phase three is analytics and tracking conversion optimization. Once you've got people on your website, now you have to say, well, what can I do to make that better? What kind of split testing can I do to see what people prefer or what I can do to improve my conversions or make more people call or get in touch with us from the website? And phase four, of course, is maintenance and backups. Now, SSL, an SSL certificate, which we're going to talk about in a moment, that is something that you're going to want to talk to your web developer about while you are building your website, because that's something that should be done when you launch. You certainly could do it, a year later, but it's not like when you process a denture. Once you've processed it, you can't change it. So with SSL, you can always add it, but it's easier to add it in the beginning because you're going to have to configure analytics and things like that, and so it's better to not have to change the website address later on. Even though the address is still going to be whatever it is, it's going to have HTTPS in front of it, which let's discuss now. So what is SSL? Well, SSL, let's first talk about how computers on the internet talk to each other. So when you go to your computer and you go to any website, your computer is talking to another computer on the internet. Web pages live on web servers around the world, and really what you're doing is when you type in whatever it happens to be, CNN.com, your computer is basically calling up a computer that has a copy of CNN's website and says, hey, could you send me that copy? Now, of the web pages that I want. Now, the default is unencrypted or an open connection. And so that means that whatever information your computer sends to CNN's computer, assuming CNN is not SSL encrypted, can be read in transit by someone else. It can be listened in. Someone could listen in. Kind of like when when we use telephones in the house and you could pick up on the other end and cover the receiver so they couldn't hear that you were listening in. Somebody can do that. And so that's the default, is unencrypted or open. And that's where you get into HTTP, which is what we usually see. SSL is encrypted, and that's HTTPS. And so what that means is, that means any information that I send. So for example, if I visit my physician's website, let's just say, that's a bad example. If I visit my attorney's website just to look and see what his office hours are, that site really does not need to have secure, because I don't really care if someone intercepts that my computer went to my attorney's computer or the computer that hosts my attorney's website to see what his hours were. There's nothing secret or encrypted. It needs to be encrypted there. However, if I'm going to my bank, I definitely want it encrypted. I want it so that if I log on to my bank's website and I start typing in my credit card number, or I start typing in, if I want to go shopping, and I type in my credit card number, when I push submit, I want it so that when that information is transmitted from my website from my computer terminal, my computer screen, to the Amazon.com's website, I don't want anybody being able to listen in on that conversation. And that's where SSL comes into play. So SSL stands for Secure Socket Layer. And basically what it does is ensure security via encryption. And what encryption basically is scrambling the information to make it private. It is a lock with a combination, but instead of having, a 3-turn combination lock like you have at the gym, or we had in high school, or wherever it is you happen to be, these are very, very, very complicated algorithms. And basically what it does is, you can see in the picture here, when your computer sends information, let's say, again, you log on to Amazon and you're going to put in your credit card, what it does is it makes sure, that's where this lock and key is there, it makes sure that information sent here to Amazon and information sent back to you is encrypted. This is actually a standard icon they use to represent a computer server, a web server, and a database. So that's just there as a picture. But the idea is that with an encrypted connection here, nobody can read, once you push submit, nobody can see what goes on from here to here. And the way that those computers talk to each other is through something called SSL, the Secure Socket Layer. And that is what that means. So again, in the past, anytime you want to do something such as e-commerce, put your credit card number in, your social security number, things like that, online banking, you wanted to have SSL, you want it to be an encrypted connection. And so again, you can think of an encrypted connection as a passkey, as a really, really, really long passkey. We're going to show you how some combinations later. But suffice it to say that with SSL encryption, it's like having a lock that has millions and millions of different combinations. And only your computer that's sending and the server computer or the website is where your computer and the web host know how to crack that combination, so to speak. So this way, my computer and Amazon.com we can do a transaction and no one else can listen in on the other end. So you recognize SSL with the padlock icon. Here's a picture of, I believe this is Chrome, this is Safari, and this is Firefox. And you can see the green secure here, this lock and key says secure, that says secure. And that's an indication to consumers that a website is secure. So that's what SSL is. So again, SSL is a way for my computer to talk to my bank or to talk to Amazon or another online computer in a way that the data we are transmitting cannot be listened into on the other end. It's encrypted. So, and then the question becomes as well, I'm a dentist. And on my website it says, Dr. Wank is a dentist, he went to Harvard, he practices blah, 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 and he likes cosmetic dentistry. Why does that have to be encrypted? Why does that special information? It isn't. But let's talk about why there has been a shift. So why does SSL matter? First of all, search engines, Google in the lead, has decided to make SSL a part of the ranking algorithm. Now, the reason that everyone likes SSL is because SSL reduces fraud and encourages e-commerce. It reduces fraud because the idea is, and I hate to say this, to train the consumer, don't shop anywhere unless you see this secure button. Now, that doesn't mean that the vendor, this could be ebig.com or amazon.com. If I type it in wrong and it's, the wrong website, you could still have an encrypted connection to a bad website. You could still have an encrypted connection to a thief. Stealmycreditcard.com, I hope that doesn't exist. You can certainly go there with an encrypted connection. But the idea is that they want the consumer to see this padlock so the consumer knows that the data the consumer is sending is encrypted. They can safely use their social or their credit card number. And that is really what secure is about. Now, what happens when the data is sitting on eBay servers, or if Amazon gets hacked, or if Gmail gets hacked? Different story. But SSL talks about the connection between your computer and some computer on the internet that you want to give private information to. So by having SSL, it encourages e-commerce because people are more willing to obviously give away their information when they know the connection is secure. And it does reduce fraud because, again, if you are giving away your credit card to, Amazon.com, hopefully you'd say, wait a minute. Well, first, I hope you'd notice it doesn't say Amazon, but you'd see that there's no lock there, and hopefully maybe that would dissuade you from shopping there. And that's what they're trying to do. Also, SSL can obscure data. So on an unencrypted connection, you can very easily track what's going on back and forth. With SSL, you can't do that. Also, it can increase trust. As people are starting to see, again, get used to eBay and other things like that being secure, then they want to see that your website is secure. And even though they don't know, most consumers don't know what that means, it does help to increase trust. Because Chrome, I don't have a picture here, Chrome is going to start putting up a note here that says not secure, which I think is really annoying, and I think it's really not fair. Especially because, again, if I'm going to your dental website to see if you take Delta Dental, I don't really think it's fair for me to get a warning from a third party like Google who says, oh, Dr. Smith's website is not secure. That's not fair because you're not taking any credit card information from me. You're not taking any personal information, any health information, so there's no need for it to be secure. So if nothing else, Google now is using scare tactics by showing browsers not secure, and that, again, in order to almost force you into doing, to having SSL. Now, again, the issue I have with that is I think it's a gross misrepresentation because not every website needs to be secure, but again, this is the way that Google goes, unfortunately. Now, the other concern, or something to think about for SSL, though, is SSL can slow down the connection. When you have a connection between two computers that's not encrypted, let's say it takes, a blink of an eye. Once you have SSL, because they actually have to make sure that the other one knows the password, so to speak, and again, it's not a password issue. Think of it as a very complicated combination lock. But in order for both of these computers to determine that they both know the combination to the lock or the passcode, that takes an extra, millionth of a blink of an eye. So what winds up happening is it's not a millionth of a blink of an eye, that it's a hair slower. That being said, Google knows that and they're encouraging it. So don't worry if you get a hair of, a slowness hit because of your SSL. Now, you can also verify identity with SSL, and that's something we're going to talk about shortly. All right, let's take a brief interlude about ranking factors. This is a diagram we come back to over and over again. And so there are around 300 factors or more that go into ranking a website on search engine results. And you can see here there are a ton of them. And many of them we've discussed before. We've discussed NAP, we've discussed Google profiles in previous webinars, link profiles, we've discussed keyword selection. We've had a lot of webinars about a lot of these title tags, we've done that. So SSL is one of the factors that goes into when Google calculates how a website will rank. So if you have 10, let's say you want to doing a search for Invisalign, Millburn, New Jersey. And there are 11 dentists with on a page called Invisalign, Millburn, New Jersey. You've got to know that one of those people has to be on the top of page 2 as number 11. Not everybody can make the top page. So the fact that they all have pages for Invisalign, Millburn, New Jersey is great, but how else is Google going to differentiate them? And SSL is one of those factors. So while we do have a good idea of what the factors are, we don't know what the relative importance is of these, the relative weight in this algorithm, and we know that it changes. So for example, obviously if we're talking about Invisalign, Millburn, New Jersey, certainly you've got to have that keyword on your page to rank for it, or something similar. Now, in the past, Google made a huge push for responsive design, which means your website, shrinks and reshapes itself to fit a tablet or a phone or whatever. When you turn your phone up or sideways, this is responsive design. And in the past, it was a major, major ranking factor. Now that pretty much, everything new is becoming responsive, I don't know if the weight is that much anymore because, how many people, you don't really have to, we don't worry about seeing patients who've never had fluoride before anymore because the majority of them have fluoride. Now, again, I know pediatric dentists, the water isn't fluoridated and this and that for certain areas, absolutely true. But the idea is there are certain things we just don't see as much of anymore. And since every new website coming out is basically responsive, it's really, Google doesn't have to use that as such a ranking factor as much anymore because they would like to think it's built in. But SSL is a ranking factor. Now, if you and another dentist have Invisalign, Millburn, New Jersey as your page and you're optimizing those keywords for that page, he has SSL, you don't. But they have NAP verified and not SSL. You don't have NAP verified and you have SSL. Who's going to win? And the answer is I don't know. I don't know which day or which hour that Google decides which is more of a factor in the ranking algorithm. Let's say it's, and I'm making this up, let's say it's from 0 to 100 and you get 100 points, and whoever has the highest number of points wins. And if it gets to 100, then there's a tiebreaker. But let's say that, your responsive is 30 points and keyword selection is 30 points and placement's 30 points. Is SSL 5 points or 1 point? Is NAP 0.5 points or 10 points? I have no idea, which is why we tell everyone, build your website to Google standards, do what Google wants, unfortunately because Google said so. And that's really what we're trapped with today, but this is the reality of it. So let's talk about types of SSL certificates. So the certificate itself is the code that lets one computer talk to another. It is basically I don't want to call it an IOU, but you can think about it basically that saying one computer is handing another computer a copy of the code in a way that they both know, that you and I both know what the code is, and we can verify that you know the code and I know the code, but no one else knows the code. And so this certificate is the means by which a computer proves to another computer that the information going back and forth is scrambled, is encrypted. Now, there's two levels of encryption, 128-bit and 256-bit. For our purposes, it's the same thing. You're not going to find any 128-bit certificates for sale on the web anymore. You're only going to find 256. They say this is bank encryption. This is, it is using a, let's see, it's it's overkill. You don't need it, but you have it. So in any case, it's using a Mack truck to pull to take your kid's bicycle somewhere as opposed to just your car. Way too much power for what we need. And so a rough estimate of the combinations, here's a rough estimate of the possible number of combinations of a 128-bit key. And so you get to the point where with that kind of number, the amount of time it would take to crack that code, they're talking about, when they have that discussion, they start talking about the age of the universe. That's how long it's going to take to crack a code like that. So 256 is even more combinations. So you could see, really don't have to worry. If you were able to, everyone would be very dead by the time anyone could crack that key. So that's something to consider. So in terms of the types of SSL certificates, there's two types. there's free and there's paid. Now, one of the beautiful things that happened is that companies called Let's Encrypt and Komodo, who also sells paid certificates, they came out with free certificates, which is great. Because if Google is pushing for certificates, then what's going to happen is, of course, then the price of certificates will go up, which really is not good. So there are free certificates, and they are fine. Because remember, the only goal of a certificate is to prove to one computer that the other computer is secure. That's it. So that's the goal of those certificates. And so since Google said, look, we want your website to be secure, again, my dental website secure from what? I mean, Short Hills Design is secure. Does Short Hills Design need to be secure? No. I mean, I don't accept credit cards on that website. I don't, we don't take social security numbers on that website. There's nothing there, other than if you submit a contract request. If someone wants to steal and know that you are interested in SEO or a website, I don't know. But we really don't need, Short Hills does not need SSL, and neither do most medical or dental websites, unless, again, you're taking patient information in. That being said, again, Google has asked for it. So what these certificates do is it provides a secure, by secure I mean encrypted connection, which means, again, my computer talking to your website, what they're talking about back and forth can't be listened in on. Now, how do we get a free certificate? Unfortunately, SSL certificates are one of those things that you just have to be a computer person to do. I hate to say that. I've never actually, in all the years I've been doing it, I don't think I've ever said, a computer person should do it, because you start getting into web servers and it gets messy. So you don't even have to know what this means, but I would ask your web developer, do we use cPanel? And cPanel is something that has to do with web hosting. And if the answer is yes, then there should be free certificates available to you that your web developer can throw a switch to access that certificate. And I know because I do it all the time. And so the web host needs to set that up. So again, you would say to your web developer, do we use cPanel? They say yes. Can you turn on the free certificate for me? And they should say yes. So now you have the certificate set up. The other choice is a paid certificate. So paid certificates serve different purposes. So in a paid certificate, what you're doing is you're also verifying your identity, and it can be used for insurance protection for vendors. So for some reason, which is ridiculous because these SSLs are not going to be cracked, but it's one of those things where they offer you insurance against a problem with a transaction. I don't see how it's ever going to happen. But identity verification, meaning that, and here, unless you're selling something on your website, or again, if you're taking in HIPAA information, absolutely need SSL. But for the regular dental website that really is just we're doing a very a beautiful brochure website, which most websites are, with the contact form. Again, I don't think it's necessary. But again, it is now because Google said so. But for paid certificates, there are different levels of validation. So you can have, for example, you can get a domain validation one that all I have to do is prove I own shorthillsdesign.com. Organizational means I have to actually prove that I, have a certificate of incorporation for Short Hills. It's a real company. Extended is, physical address, phone calls, and it's one of the things that gives you the green bar. Now, some of the free certificates give you a green bar also. The issue here is that consumers don't really know the difference between these three levels of validation. So I don't see an advantage to buying organizational validation over domain validation. It's not like the consumer can tell. Like the consumer can't tell if I'm the type of person who does wide DO amalgams and you don't do DO amalgams that are as wide. At the end of the day, they look the same on the X-ray. So, and I don't do wide amalgams, but I'm just saying this is a level of differentiation that I don't think the consumer really can appreciate and doesn't appreciate and hasn't been taught to appreciate. They look for SSL and that's it. So, I don't think it makes a difference if you want to get a paid one to get this one or to get the extended. I think extended you can get for $90 now, something like that. So again, I think that for most dental websites, ask your web developer, have them set up a free certificate, and you should be okay. Now, once you have the certificate set up, you have to actually make WordPress or your website talk to it. So basically what happens is your web server where your website lives has a certificate waiting for you. And you basically have to configure your website so that it knows there's a certificate and it turns it on. Also, that is something that your web developer is going to do. So step one, though, and again, I'm showing you so you have an overview and a checklist for them. I don't expect you to do this. But with your web person, you make sure that you have it set up. Fine. Now, Search Console, SSL or not, you should just have a preferred display set for www and non-www. And I'm going to talk about that in the next slide. Actually, let's jump here. The reason for that is because Google thinks that www.shorthillsdesign.com and plain old shorthillsdesign.com without the www are different websites. They're not. You and I both know they're not. But computers, web servers don't know that. Google doesn't know that. So Search Console is where you say to Google, hey, listen, actually it's the www or it's the non-www. So as long as you're consistent, it doesn't matter which one you pick. We happen to pick the www because I remember it all the time, but it doesn't matter. So SSL or not, if you're not comfortable with Search Console, your web person should be in Search Console having selected a preferred www or non-www. That's it. You should have verified both properties. Again, this is something, if you don't understand this, say to your web person, have you selected a preferred display for us in Search Console? Have you verified both of our properties, www and non-www? Yes. Now, once you have SSL, you have to verify those properties as well. So I'm not going to get into the technical of that, but that's something that's easy to do. But at the end of the day, you're actually going to have 4 listings. www.shorthillsdesign.com, just shorthillsdesign.com, the HTTPS version, the secure version of www.shorthillsdesign.com, and the HTTPS version of just shorthillsdesign.com. Again, it's something for your web person if you're not comfortable diving into that, but just look at the slide, have them set it up, have them set a preferred display, verify it. We actually have to verify them first. Verify it first, then set a preferred. You can't set a preferred display unless you verified them both. That you verify your SSL properties once you verified your non-SSL, or if you're just launching, you can just verify straight SSL, and then adjust Google Analytics because your site is now HTTPS. Again, all stuff for your web developer. Now, SSL setup in WordPress. This is, again, a slide that is in general. So, again, we said once you have an SSL certificate, and you've discussed this, you've worked with search, a side thing is to update Search Console and Analytics. You still have to connect your website to the certificate. And so you're doing that. These are the steps in WordPress. In general settings, you change to HTTPS. In the admin dashboard, you force SSL. You can use the WP config file or a plugin. I use iTheme Security. It doesn't matter. And again, I use Real Simple SSL to check for mixed content errors. Mixed content errors are errors that come up when it says, hey, some part of this website isn't secure. And again, it's really not a problem, but it's something that you just want to avoid because it scares consumers. And obviously, you want to make sure you're redirecting to HTTPS. Okay, and so again, here's Short Hills Design. This is a real screenshot. For Short Hills, we use a Commodore certificate, a free certificate. So it is showing green, which is good. So that really wraps it up for SSL. Are there any questions? No questions. Good. So let me take a moment then to talk about the current services that we're offering, just as an aside. If you are all set, you can certainly leave now. We've covered the SSL stuff, but we have some exciting new things coming down the line that I wanted to make you aware of. So first of all, for our traffic and lead generation services, we talked about that step one. We said that step one in the process is building a website to Google standards. No question about that. Step two is driving traffic. And there are other things that you have to do to drive traffic. Once you've done SEO, you've done some, you're trying to post on social sites and get traffic there. There are other things that you have to do depending on competition. If there's no competition, you're in good shape. But once you've built a website, you've done SEO, and you need to drive more traffic, there are other things you can do. So one of the services we're offering is our content marketing service. And in this service, we give you 2 pre-written blog posts per month for 6 months for a total of 12 blog posts. And each month it's a different subject, whether it's implants, ortho and Invisalign, veneers. So what this does is, because my SEO philosophy is that I don't think we do a one-time SEO sort of configuration, setup, and optimization. I don't believe in giving monthly reports anymore. I think that, and paying for those. I think that content marketing is a better approach, because I'd rather you have, at the end of 6 months, 12 articles that are there on search engines for your viewers to see, that are more targets for searchers, than having reports that you might not even look at, or you'll look at, but now what? So with this service, the goal is to drive traffic to your website and increase your interactions on Facebook by giving you these 2 pre-written blog posts per month for 6 months. It's limited to 1 office per zip code because we do use the same content. Google has said that if an office in Manitoba has the same content as an office in Miami, a couple of articles, it's not a problem anymore. So the idea is now, after 6 months, you've got now 12 tangible articles for your website that people can find on search engines. Remember, if you are, again, let's talk about Invisalign again. If you've optimized up the wazoo for Invisalign, and so have all of your competitors, you might not rank. You might not be able to rank for Invisalign My Town because of the competition. If there are 15 dentists with Invisalign My Office or My Town web pages, and you're one of 16, yeah. So you can start, we have articles that say, what if I lose my aligner? What is the treatment time? Can I still get the same results in shorter time with Invisalign? What kind of case can I do with Invisalign? So by having more articles, you are appealing to the patients who are actually asking the questions, because that's what's going to come next. Once everybody, and they are, has optimized, it's going to come down to now who has these, what we call the long tail keywords, who's answering the questions. So, and again, and the beauty of this is that after 6 months, you've got 12 articles. You can go into Google Analytics and Facebook Insights and see, well, what posts are popular. I thought everyone wanted Invisalign, but nobody looked at them, or nobody liked those on Facebook. And if we look at the bleaching ones, yes, wow, it looks like there was a lot of traffic for the bleaching ones, and for the, and on Facebook for bleaching also. So not only does it give you articles to increase your digital footprint, so to speak, your content footprint, it gives you insights. The other service that we're doing here is lead generation. This is my favorite. And what this is designed to do is to take advantage of the fact that there are people who visit your website who might spend 15 seconds reading on your implant page. That's the kind of person that you want to offer and say, hey, listen, would you like to sign up for our email series for 3 free emails that will teach you about dental implants and Invisalign? And we have those running, and those are great because someone signs up, they opt in as per CAN-SPAM requirements, and then what happens is, while you're working or sleeping or doing whatever, or driving to the office, these people are getting a series of 3 emails. I wrote them, so they're accurate and they're well written, and so they're getting these series of emails over the course of a week and a half that discuss, Invisalign in general, Invisalign options, Invisalign costs, and obviously we customize the emails to your branding and your address and whatnot. And the link, contact us, goes to your website. And on the 3rd email, we add a special if you have a special. So this way, this is marketing that works while you're sleeping, and at the end of the day, or working, this is working automatically for you, building leads. And again, it is, if someone spends X amount of time, someone in the office says, can you tell me about Invisalign? For someone who's just sitting in the waiting area, of course you're going to talk to the one about Invisalign who asked you. AdWords. Not every website is a candidate for AdWords. We do AdWords for certain clients. We do AdWords in a special way. We do it with performance billing. And what that means is we first do a study to make sure that AdWords makes sense. If you're in the heart of New York City, and I don't want to tell you, listen, it's going to cost $2,000 a month to get 3 phone calls, I don't think that's worth it. Certainly you can decide that. If you charge $10,000 a crown, maybe it is. But the idea is that we want to do a study first to make sure it's worth it, and to kind of predict what results you'll get generally, and see if we're in the ballpark on, is what it would cost to pay Google and AdWords spending worth it compared to what return we think you're going to get. And if we do that, then we move ahead with AdWords. We do a 3-month period at a fixed price, so everything gets set up and it gets rolling. And then after that, we go month to month with performance-based billing, which basically means if you don't get any calls or any clicks, we don't get paid. Step 3 we talked about is conversion optimization. And that's where you've got a great website built to standards, you've got traffic going to the site, and now you want to learn more. So what split testing does is, I love that. So for example, we have a button on the homepage and it says, schedule an appointment. And I say, you know what? What if it said, learn about our specials? Which of those buttons is going to get more clicks? Well, I think the learn about our specials button. Or, and so what split testing does is it lets us test what we think is going to work better. So if you have an Invisalign page and it says, call to learn more about Invisalign, and I say, you know what if we said, call to get a straight smile? Which of those would be better? Neither of them might be better. They might be the same. But if we find out that, if you change the text to call now to straighten your smile, and that gets more phone calls, well, that's terrific. Newsletter marketing is where we reach out to our existing patients and new subscribers with newsletters, highlighting recent blog posts. And drip marketing is advanced. We use that once we know someone is interested in Invisalign or interested in specific service. We send highly targeted campaigns to them about that specific service. So, as always, I thank you for your time. I know this was a bit of a strange webinar because it was a little more technical than usual, but next month we're jumping into Americans with Disabilities Act, which would be a very, very interesting one. Thanks again, and if you have any questions, my information is here, and here is the information for September and for October. And thank you again for coming.